Hey, welcome to another part-time Rambles discussion. I Today I've seen a lot of I saw a couple articles talking about trans uh trans women in jail. One where there's a trans woman who is going to jail, but she's going into the male prison rather than the uh female prison because of her crimes, right? So because she raped two women as a man before, and that's what she's going to jail for. And she's going to be put in the male prison for obvious reasons. And then there's another one where a trans woman impregnated two women in jail. Uh, and I'm just wondering, in my head, I think regardless of what you identify as, in certain places you have to be put you have to be separated from whatever you want to identify as, right? So like if you're a trans woman and you go to jail for doing something you shouldn't have done, to be expected to be put with the same population just because you're considered a woman, I don't think that, because we're taking away we're taking away the safety of people, and there's a clear advantage there. And when the risk outweighs the benefits, I think that's going to be an issue. Now, you can say, well, that extends to so many things. Why would that happen that way? Why are it's not fair to put it to this because there's many risks that outweigh the benefits that we do anyways. But in this case, even though they did something wrong, they're being punished, and what they did was unacceptable. It's unacceptable enough for us to say, hey, you're going to go in this box. We're still forcing people to be in this box. And then you're going to put these people in a box with someone who most likely has an advantage over the majority of the people in that box. And that's a problem because now you're risking the safety of others for one person. Now, I guess there's something to say about, okay, well then you're just saying she's not a woman. I guess one of the biggest the most interesting like argument for me is when I really sat there and thought about it, I'm like, okay, well some people were saying like she should be allowed, or maybe like if your argument is, well, she did a crime that was violent to women, well there's plenty of women in that jail that do the same thing and they're staying in the female prison. But again, if you're looking at it, that woman still doesn't have the advantage to do the same things that the trans woman would be able to do. And then there's the other argument of, I guess I'd have to look into this more because I guess the other argument is if they're fully transitioned, and I don't know if a fully transitioned, well, I imagine that a fully transitioned woman would not be able to do the same thing as a trans woman that hasn't gone through a transition can do. So, like, if I'm like saying on average, I'm sure someone who hasn't gone through the transition would probably be able to physically bully the other person. My question is, but what is the gap between a fully transitioned woman and a woman? And if the advantage is not significant, and then the uh, if the advantage is not significant, and they're around I guess if it's equal, but then even okay, even if you allow that to happen, what are you doing? Well now, right? You're saying okay, well she can because she's more like a woman, right? And then now, especially with like that's just not how we when people self-identify as what they what they identify as, or whatever they call it. When they go through this, we made it so they can just say that, like, this is how I feel. So if you were to be like, hey, well, only fully transitioned women, I mean, that's a whole nother issue. In general, like my personal take, I'm saying all these things are issues, but I just think they have to be separated. Kind of like sports. I don't believe trans women and women should be in the same sports. It's not fair. It's just not fair. It doesn't make any sense. Uh, and you're having trans women just be, you're at the end of the day, like the more popular this becomes, and in my head, I'm just saying you like competition. It's they don't want to, trans women don't want to be put in the league of just trans, but they also don't want to be put in the league with other men. So if you join, if you have trans women joining, and I know this, I'm talking in general, but like I'm saying this because of the reason I'm going to this is because in general, when you're looking at what you're saying a trans woman is and what can and which spaces they can go into depending on how far transition they are, um, that's an issue if you already think that they shouldn't be separated. Like if you don't think they should be separated, then or if you don't think they should be separated unless, then I don't think you can have the unless because there's so many issues with that kind of thinking. But there's also issues with the separation in itself. But like what I'm saying, but I think even though it's still an issue, it's safer because it just doesn't make sense to me that you do something like this. Because over time, and with the sports, um, to like compare it to sports, if trans women keep being allowed to do this, trans women are going to dominate the league. It's going to be it's they didn't want to be put in the trans league, but over time it would become just a trans league. Because why would any professional want to compete with someone that they know they're going to lose to? And in most cases, those trans women are going to dominate a lot of those sports. Um, and I think that's the same for the prison. So, especially if the end all be all is how you feel. If that's what we've already made the case in point, like as long as you feel like this and you say you're this, that's what you are. If that's where the line is drawn, then we can't push it further when it goes to the other spaces, you know? Um, I mean, you definitely can, and I think we will because I think it's the most reasonable thing to do. But I'm just saying it doesn't logically track, I feel like sometimes. Uh, Although I don't think that should be an issue. I don't really think it should be an issue. I don't think you should be irritated at the fact that, hey, I make people here uncomfortable. I shouldn't go and do this right now because there is there is a reasonable reason for this to happen. It's not based on um like any type of, I mean, sure, some of it is going to be negative judgment and that, but I think for the most part it's pretty reasonable the reasons these people don't want these things to happen. Um, it's not a crazy bigoted take to to say no. I don't think you guys should share the same bathroom at the same time because I can acknowledge that you're a woman without acknowledging while also acknowledging okay, well this is still unfair, and it is what it is. Uh, I mean I I'm just curious. What do people think? Is what I'm saying like why? If you think I'm wrong, why? Like what is the issue with with separating trans women and women in certain areas, right? Because in certain areas you have to be. I guess you're arguing you don't have to be. I don't know. I feel like it's just harder because you're asking for a space to be eventually dominated by it. I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong.